Call the meeting to order and announce that in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and not broadcasted, but available for future broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. First order of business is to welcome new members. We welcome Tanner Cole, who's replacing Michael Ray Jeffries from the planning board at the last meeting, but we had a couple of members that weren't here at that meeting. Tanner has joined us. Phyllis Luck was appointed to replace Bob Ebersol, but is in Denver on holiday, so will not be with us this evening. Is there any public comment from the committee?
No.
Is there any public comment from the public?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to kind of aim towards the camera.
Okay. Move into sight of the camera. Dave Passios, 56 Whiting Street. I'm here to plant a seed with this committee, and I know it's kind of late in the process, but the Board of Park Commissioners have briefly discussed this in a previous meeting, and they intend to bring it back up on their agenda in the very near future. And it's in regards to let's see, Section 3-9 in the town charter. And very simply, in the charter, the composition of the Board of Commissioners is listed as consisting of 3 members who shall be elected for terms of 3 years each. Mass General Law, Chapter 45, Section 2, deals with that same subject. And in there, the Board of Commissioners is consisting of 3 or 5 persons. And there may be some real big advantages to mimicking that verbiage, in the charter, and allow in the future for the Park Commission, if they decide that's good for them, to increase to 5 members. It doesn't mean that they would increase to 5 members right away, but it would give them the option to do that down the road. So as I say, I'm here to plant the seed for that. I just spoke with one of the commissioners before I walked in the door to make them aware that I was going to make this presentation. And I also sent the information to the Open Space Committee, because there is some information in their report that also kind of speaks to this. Thank you.
Dave, what was the MGL?
Chapter 45, Section 2.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to read it, I actually have the chapter here. I don't need this copy. Anybody wants it?
Thank you. Any other public comment? Please.
Hi, good evening. Darren Massey, 300 Holman.
You want that chair?
Thank you. Yeah, he's good. Okay. Here to learn about the process. Thank you for your work. My primary concern tonight, I just want to draw your attention to and ask a few questions in the proposed verbiage for the Board of Selectmen under D, appointments. There's a line of inclusion apparently about appointments to committees shall be those who are registered to vote in the town. I have a few questions about that. One, if anyone could elucidate the history of that to be proposed. My background.
I have different pages.
Is that...
It's page 7 of the November 13th. Section 3.
Is it a brown?
3-2 dash...
Yes, Brown.
So that's a proposed change.
So my questions are, what was it prior? Was there an empty space there? Was that new language, or was it altered?
It was basically, I can tell you that part of the reason why the discussion came up was on the Finance Committee in particular, we had a member appointed who was not a registered voter, which made life at town meeting a little bit difficult, because we're asking this person to make recommendations to the town, but then he can't vote. So that's one of the things that started that, because we determined that in the charter there was no language at all talking about the need for someone to be a registered voter especially in a situation like that. So that's what started it.
I remember because I was on that committee.
In response to that, my proposal would be rather to change it to resident rather than registered
He was a
voter.
resident.
He was a
Correct.
He was, yeah.
Well, you have to be a resident.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, but though, then one, I have personal experience, but two, for any resident who wishes to speak at town meeting, they may be sponsored by a registered voter.
Yeah, no, they just can't vote. That was-
Correct.
That was it. So basically, what we're doing is, yes, within the context of the committee, the person is able to vote a recommendation, but the feeling was that if someone is voting a recommendation, it would be helpful if they also were
Voting,
participating in the vote.
It's for an elected position or an appointment to an elected board.
No,
So
it's not an
people like
elected...
the
right.
Parks Commission, if we wanted a non-resident alien or somebody who's not registered to vote to sit on the commission, we would be excluding them.
That would be something to discuss. I mean, basically,
The proposed wording
As I'm reading it.
Yes.
Right.
just says appointments to committees shall be those who are registered to vote in town.
Okay.
All right, now, that's not approved by us finally, it's not approved by the town,
Right.
but that's the proposed wording.
And to our guest's point, that was one of the topics I wanted to talk about today, because I've had other conversations with other people who are residents, but not registered to vote, that are interested in serving on committees, but they're not registered to vote.
Mhm.
I'm just curious as to why they're not registered to vote.
They may not be citizens.
One person is absolutely a citizen and does not believe that their vote matters one whit.
So they don't register.
So they
Not
don't
even in
bother-
town politics?
Not even in town politics. And I pointed out the fact that,
Wow.
you know, all politics are local and elections are won by minimal
Especially in
margins, especially in town. I pointed out there have been congressional races that have been won by one vote, and they do not want to register to vote.
Okay, well, I mean, it'll be interesting to
But
get
they want
into
to be
the...
interested, they want to participate in,
Yeah. So if we're going to talk about it within the body, then we should probably
Okay.
go ahead
So then,
and move beyond public
in
comment.
conclusion then, what I would add then is thank you for that history. That's helpful information to know of where they came about. My concern remains, and I appreciate some of the background. I don't know about these other people. I know about the people I know about who are different. My concern remains about disenfranchising people who choose whatever choice they make, whether they choose not to register, whether they are non-citizens or whatever else. But if they're residents in this town and they're paying taxes, I firmly believe in not disenchanting them from the ability to be on committees. And so I would highly request to demonstrate language that supports any resident being on any committee, so that one, they're able to do that, and two, that the implied message is that you're not inserting language that it is exclusionary to residents in this town.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. Our next order of business is the organization of the committee. I'd like to just say one word before I commence that. Based on the last public hearing and based on feedback from various sources, including Facebook, etc., I think it's important that the town, when they hear the suggestions of this committee, see it as a committee recommendation that's called for in the charter itself, that the charter calls for putting together a committee, making recommendations on any updates to that committee, presenting it to the town, and having the town vote on those committees. I think we had a unique situation in our original makeup in that Bob Udasol, as the selectman representative, had a very rich history in the town, understood the first couple of charter reviews, was our chair. I think he did an excellent job as our chair. But I feel pretty strongly that I'm not sure a selectman should hold an officer position in this committee. I think we need to be represented, but shouldn't hold an officer position. So it would be my preference, once I open this up to an organization discussion, that I not be considered for any of the positions. However, I will volunteer, if asked, to kind of consult on Robert's Rules of Order, or how do you make a motion, or any historical stuff that I can track down, because I kept pretty good, records of what Bob sent out and that kind of thing. But totally in an unofficial capacity, and totally if asked by the officers of the committee. Having said that, the agenda item is to organize the committee. Do I have any nominations for chair of the committee?
I'd like to nominate Steve Archambault for chair.
For a second.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
You're a judge.
Okay. First order of business, we need a clerk. Correct?
Correct.
So, what do I say? Do we have nominations for clerk?
I would nominate Mark Erickson as clerk.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Mark, do you want to do that?
I'm willing to do that.
Okay.
Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Mr.
Chair, can
Johnson?
I ask you to, even though it's not on the agenda, could I ask you to ask for nominations for vice chair?
That would be really good. Yes. Open the floor for
Do we
vice
need
chair.
to do that?
You should, because...
We should. We're reorganizing everything, so.
And if Mr. Archambault is not able...
No. The only reason I was asking was we already have a vice chair.
Okay.
That's the only person who didn't leave. So, but you're right, it's a new year, it's a
We
new
should.
committee, so yes, we should.
So open the floor for nominations for vice chair. Who was that vice chair?
Jamie?
Yeah, but Jamie doesn't want to do anything.
Right, he doesn't want to be an officer,
So
that's
I'm
right. I
gonna
missed that whole...
nominate-
Yeah, right.
I know, so I'm going to nominate Carrie.
I'll accept that nomination. So I'm happy to do that because Steve has such good attendance.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Did anybody else want it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anyone else? Yeah, I know. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So moved. Aye. We do not have to do any other position, correct?
Correct.
We need a treasurer.
We don't have any money.
Okay. If we have any money up.
All of a sudden you want...
All I know is my salary just went up.
They'll do that too.
All right, then the first order of business is to approve minutes. The October 24th minutes. Someone has a copy. I couldn't find my copy.
I did not, I arrived late for that meeting.
Who was doing
I didn't take very good notes. Bob was going to talk to Michael about having them prepared. I don't know that he did.
Was Michael here at that meeting?
He was not.
No.
No.
Nope.
And you weren't able to track him down?
No, I didn't email him
No.
because I got you and I said, oh, someone I won't.
As-
All right,
As
so-
the newly elected clerk, you just can't get out. I'll watch the tape and use my notes to put some minutes together.
Thank you very much. That'll be awesome.
And that'd be-
So that'll be TBA.
And then November 28th, I'm happy to make a
November.
motion to approve. Yeah.
Second.
Open for discussion.
I thought they looked fine. I thought they
You weren't
looked
there.
fine.
All
I
right.
did watch the tape.
But we can go on.
They were.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That passes. We approved. All right, we need the review feedback from town council.
Now, I have a hard copy of that. I don't know if that was circulated to everybody, but it had to do with the two issues of having a second town meeting and whether you call it an annual town meeting or not. And and I think the description in the 24th minutes actually talks
Right.
about what that discussion was about. But I have, and I don't know if everybody does, a copy of the memo that town council sent to
No.
Bob.
No.
Okay, well, why don't I send it to everybody.
All right, so we'll table
Okay,
that.
the second item on that is the process for write-in votes, the whole discussion of how to word the change that relates to write-in votes. And it's also in the town council memo, which I'll send. There's one action item from the last meeting, is that what would the number be based on the last gubernatorial election? I checked with the town clerk, it is 53. Because at the last gubernatorial election, there was 5,334 voters, 1% of that is 53. So that's what the number would be until the next gubernatorial. You know, it tracks to 1% of the governor's election.
Okay, so we'll
So
table.
you would ask for the number, it's 53.
Well, actually, what I had asked for to set a number, I didn't think it had to be
I
tied
asked for
to
the
the...
background on what
Okay.
the number was.
Well, that's a good idea.
Right.
I mean, basically, because, you know, to me, I would think that, given that the previous number was 42, I would think that, you know, I'd like to probably settle on, if we're going to present it as an item, I would be happier if there was a set number and it was not as high as that. I don't think it has to be that.
That is the number that still is required to get on the ballot.
Oh, I understand that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just basically, I think that I don't see them as the same issue.
Okay.
So to me, I mean, that was just my take on it, was that, yeah, if you said that, you know, that 20 votes would be required in proper form. 20 votes in proper form would be required. I could probably support a change like that. But something as convoluted as, you know, like a number that can change, just, I like certainty.
And I am opposed to a defined number because the numbers do change. When I pulled papers, I had to get, I think, 45 signatures
Right.
to get on the ballot. And I'm not sure that a write-in candidate shouldn't have to at least meet that threshold. I would entertain a percentage less than 1% as an option. But I think that they need to meet a certain threshold of acceptance by the community to hold the position.
Well, I guess that I understand that. I guess to me, it's just that, you know, the town gets what the town votes for. That's just basically my, you know, so if 3 people vote, you know, that didn't bother me, the fact that there were so few votes that were getting people on. You know, that, and I know that, you know, like Joe Anderson was one of the people that said, you know, hey, listen, I'm the one that got in with however many votes that was. But I think that I never had a problem with that. So I guess I just never saw the need for a minimum number of votes required to get elected if there was nobody on the ballot.
And I also see the point of, in the event that a position is not filled and it's appointed by a board or the existing members
Yeah,
as a potential issue.
you don't.
But I do see that. Well, I can see that as a potential issue. You know, if you've got 5 people making a decision,
Well,
but I would hope that if you're running a write-in campaign, and we're assuming that these people are running a write-in campaign, or they want to be elected, that they would try to meet a threshold.
Well, and I know I haven't been part of the original discussions here, but in order for this to kick in, my understanding is no one is nominated at caucus. No one pulls papers.
Right.
And submits signatures. So, in my mind, at that point, any person in town that knows about this position has already determined that they're not going to make that effort, right?
Right, they're not interested.
They're not interested enough to at least take the step
Yeah.
forward. So at that point, why not elect somebody? I mean, the whole point of an election is to fill the seat. And if the person accepts the nomination, in other words, they get written in and they accept the position, then let them fill the position. The whole point is to put them in that place. And they're filling roles that they're on a board with a few members. It's not as if we're electing the town manager where all the power sits with one person to make these decisions. So, I mean, I guess I'm trying to understand what we're trying to fix. I asked that question, like, when has this been a problem? And, you know, I know some people have been elected with 5 votes, 6 votes, 9 votes. To me, that's not a problem. I mean, when you get appointed, you get appointed by single-digit votes. And I would much rather serve as a representative who has been elected by townspeople rather than appointed by a board. I feel like that's a better connection to the community. I'd much rather be picked by the voters than anybody sitting on a board.
Would you accept a minimum number of 10? That takes it to a number larger than any of the
Double digits.
organized bodies.
Yeah,
Yeah, because if you're appointed by a joint appointment, it'd be 9 people.
yeah.
The one side I'd ask us to consider is that if you're appointed, at least it's in an open meeting that's been posted, and if somebody has a huge objection, they can go make that objection. Whereas if I didn't know somebody was going to be on the ballot because they weren't on the ballot and they didn't pull papers and anything else, but they got together with 2 or 3 friends and got put on the ballot, you know, I didn't have an opportunity to say, gee, I think that's a terrible idea. So that's why some threshold of some number of people who believe it's really a write-in, as opposed to just, gee, it's an empty spot, you know. 2 or 3 people could make it happen.
But I think you're always going to have people that look at anyone that's elected and says, oh, I wouldn't like that person there. I mean, that's politics.
Sure.
There's always the
Agreed.
opposite side of the aisle. And again, we're looking at a situation where no one was nominated at caucus, no one pulled papers. Like, I mean, these slots are pretty well known and advertised, so if you're really looking for participation, I think any sort of rules like this that exclude people from filling those seats should be cause for concern, because we're going to have more vacancies. This isn't going to fill more boards. We'll have more vacancies, not less.
I'm thinking of situations where, and I don't know that this has happened, but where a board is trying to fill a position that's elected, and somebody gets in with 5 votes, 6 votes, whatever, that is disruptive to the process, or that board cannot work with, you know, just in terms of dynamics. I think in that instance, I'd like to hear what the board that's filling the position thinks of the candidate, right?
Person, yeah.
And I know that you're right. Somebody's going to rub somebody the wrong way.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I'm just trying to think of, is there to Jamie's point, having an open meeting where both boards are debating the merits of an individual's position, I think it somehow sounds more democratic to me than a small number of votes putting somebody into a role.
It can, but I also think that, okay, so say for example, when there was a planning board vacancy, and then you had the planning board and the board of selectmen come together to make an appointment, in that situation, everybody on the planning board did not want the appointee, but everybody on the board of selectmen did, and in that case, the board of selectmen, being a full board, overruled the planning board members. It worked out. It was all fine. It was great. It worked out great. But on the other hand, it doesn't play well. Right. It
And
wouldn't play
that's
well.
one part of that appointment process.
Right.
Yeah, we just
The
did
board
that.
that is seeking the role to be filled is at a disadvantage.
Yeah, because we did that with Carol. Just
Right.
like
But that's the language of the charter for, you know, that exists today for filling a vacancy that occurs during the term.
Right.
During the term, right.
Now, we'd have to, you know, if you
Right,
choose
right.
to, we'd have to change that.
Oh, no,
someplace else.
That's fine.
We're talking about an open seat at election
Yeah.
time.
When people have the absolute
Right.
right to cast their vote, and if they've cast their vote, and you know, like, and it's just a few people who said, I mean, basically, I would have done a write-in candidate, except that I lost the sticker. There was someone who was, and actually, it was Joe. I mean, he was running, you know, it's like, I would have voted for him, but I lost the sticker, and I had no idea where he lived. So it's like I didn't end up writing him in, but I would have. And it was, and then if somebody else got appointed who hadn't been a write-in candidate, hadn't been appointed at the caucus, hadn't pulled papers, then it's like, okay, where did they come from? So to me, I again go back to, I think, what the town votes for, the town gets. And if the town doesn't put up a good, or if there's nobody that wants to run for it, or if people do run for it and they still get sidetracked, I would just as soon not see that happen. I would just, like as soon see whoever did get the vote. But if there was going to be a number, sure, 10 would be a fine number for me, because I think, like 10 voters is better than 9 appointers. And that's what you would have in most situations.
Yeah.
But I don't think 53 or 42 would be necessary, and I think it would be a hard hurdle, because in this case, because they didn't get their name on the ballot, they now have to pass the hurdle of everybody knowing what their street number is, so they can write that in, so it's in proper form.
That's a good point.
And it's required to put the street number in.
I have no idea, which is another,
Is
the
that
proper
required?
form for a write-in, I would assume that's why people do stickers, because, you got to get something right,
We
so.
need to find that
On
out.
school committee, several years ago, there was a candidate who got in with 8 votes before I was on.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wrote his address down. Do you know
I've
Brenda
never-
was on?
It's possible you
Is
don't.
that MGL?
It goes with the intent of the
Oh.
voter, if it got studied. So long as you know what the intent of the voter was, if there was a typo, a spelling error, then they rule with the intent, even if you spelled the name wrong or mixed up an address.
But is that covered in MGL? So
The Attorney
it's
General would
language-
rule with the intent of the
Right.
voter. So if you spelled the name wrong or put somebody's maiden name, they'd understand their intent had been that person.
Yeah. I'd have to look up what proper form is.
I'll have to look that up. You want to look that up?
I'll look that up.
How's that?
I'd look it up even faster if I can do this stuff.
Okay. So,
But anyway, that's basically where I am on that.
so we got mixed feelings here at the moment, so that's something that's going to we need to look up proper form, because that would be important. If we just need the name of the person, that's different. If you need specific biographical addresses and all that, that is a lot harder on a write-in. I've never voted for a write-in. So, I don't know. I think the blank is just blank.
To the point that Katie raised, though, you have to be able to determine the intent of the voter.
Right.
So if someone just happens to have a popular name,
Right.
and there's 3 of them in town, if
You
all
don't
you
know
have
which
is a
one.
name,
So-
you don't know which one.
Oh, true.
That's kind of an odd circumstance, but it could happen.
That is very
In
true.
August, they shared the same address.
All right, well,
My other brother Darrell.
That was my son. That was my son. He's getting him off the couch.
all right. So, we need to find that out. We're going to find that out.
Did we classify this as a
Brown.
controversial or?
This
brown?
hasn't been-
This is
Brown?
I think it's a red one. I think it's a controversial.
Now it is,
Well,
but it was
it's-
brown.
It's in as brown.
It was.
It is?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's in
okay.
as brown. Yeah. It was-
So,
Where, that is,
That was a different,
thought it
that was a
we
different
thought it
committee.
was potentially not controversial.
Yeah, that's why it was brown.
Yeah, the end, right at the
It's
end.
brown.
Oh, is it?
Oh, wait, where is it?
I saw it at the end as
4, is it
being
4.8?
red at the end.
Hold on, I was
but-
I'm sorry.
4.8?
I don't know. I don't have these numbers.
I had the wrong, yeah, I was looking at something else.
I thought it was near the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have a number?
Well, it's the last.
Oh, is it the one that says no?
And it's
Oh,
in
there it is,
as
it's
red.
red.
on the-
Article
It is red.
two,
Article
okay.
7,
It is.
Article
red.
7 is
I was
red.
looking in the wrong
Yeah.
place.
So was I had it brown.
And so the red ones, we're coming up with pros and cons, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pros and cons, just like.
Because I can see myself going either direction on this.
Yeah.
Based on these conversations, but
Okay, just to come back with the information,
We did that one
it
already.
does say all write-in or sticker votes should include the correct name and address of the candidates. Courts have ruled that a vote should be counted whenever the intent of the voter can reasonably be determined, even if the voter omits the candidate's address or makes a mistake in the name or address.
Mhm. It's like a similar names may muddy that up if you don't
Right.
have the intent.
In the audit.
Correct, correct.
Right. Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
7.1.
Mr. Chairman, it's kind of the next agenda item, but one of the things that I think we said we wanted to do is with the turnover on this particular committee.
Mr. Revote.
Yeah, and actually, we probably want to, it's certainly your call, but we want to rediscuss whether a supermajority is what we require.
Supermajority.
Yeah,
Supermajority.
you know,
I think going to town meeting, we should have a supermajority on our recommendations, which allows us to say that it's almost unanimous, or unanimous. Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
9.
6, 7, 8, 9, and we needed 6 for a supermajority, 5 for just a majority. So
Right.
I'd rather go with 6, because you never know, that gives you a margin of 2. in the
Well,
switching.
I think that was one of the points was
Yeah.
last time when we took a vote on this one issue, we had to come back anyway because we didn't get supermajority.
Right.
So, because we didn't have you two present.
School
so-
committee meeting.
So I would prefer to keep the supermajority, and if that way there, only the things we really want to go in to this. Because obviously the town will vote on many of these different things individually. So 7.1 is the write-in. We are slightly out of order, but that's okay. So I put that down as a needing a pro and a con. Is that
But it
safe
also
to
needs,
see?
it still needs a vote in order to be put forward.
Put forward. And I have, later on, I have a list of some of the reds. And 7.1 was listed
Okay.
as one of the ones. So if you want to wait, we can do the voting all at once. We can vote on that separately. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, actually, it might be good to ask new members if they want to go through.
Well, my goal was to start with the purple,
Purple,
which
right?
is not, and then go through some of the browns and through some of the reds and just
Okay.
double check
Yeah.
those. There are some I specifically said, and I have those section numbers so we can look, and it's fine. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to table on the write-in until we get to it in the next part of the agenda. My thought in the review the draft charter as of November 13th, Bob had recommended just to go through it for the new members also, so you're aware of what's going on, and to get that general consensus from us as we have a public meeting. Our next meeting would be a public meeting, so we can say this is what we've done. So the November 13th draft had purple, brown, and red.
Yep.
Purple was just typos and pretty much things just to clean up language.
And legal compliance, it says.
And legal, not controversial.
Yeah.
Has everyone had a chance, Tanner, have you had a chance to go through this? Did the purple look okay to you in general?
Yeah.
The purple was just cleaning up. The only thing that we haven't cleaned up was defining days. And that has to go, we talked about it at the last meeting. Is it a calendar day? Is it a work day? Things like that.
Yeah.
My feeling is to put that in the definitions rather than rewrite it everywhere.
Yes. That's what we
So
talked about last
is that
time.
something, so is that something we need to run by town council?
No, I think we just make a motion to define a day as a calendar day. I would make a motion that a day is a calendar day, or a day as, I mean, we can do town council for language, but I think basically we determine whether we're talking about a work or a calendar day.
Right. Okay, so there's a motion to make it a calendar day. Is that what you're saying? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so now we can discuss it.
In terms of how are we defining the day?
So if somebody needs to do something in 30 days,
Okay.
are we
So that
talking 30
includes
calendars? That includes weekends, yes, it's a
Okay.
calendar day.
So it has to be done in 5 days, and it's calendar days.
And I would suggest if you think it's too short a period, you add the days, you don't change the definition.
Right.
Right.
No, and just understanding what the context is.
Well, Tim Murphy had brought up that when he is involved in court proceedings, the cases are won and lost on the definition of days. So in our charter, it's listed and not defined anywhere. So if someone had an issue, they go, well, I have 5 days. You didn't define it. It's 5 business days, or is it 5 calendar days? There's a big difference. In 30 days, business days is way different than 30 calendar days.
So,
The proposal at the moment is to make them all calendar days, and then we could go through and change the numbers if we wanted to, which I think, as chair, I'm not supposed to give opinions.
You give opinions.
My thought is, if you make that definition one way, then throughout the entire document, no matter when it shows up, it's always the same. Whereas if you say, well, if we say this, it means that. If we say that, if it's more than 10 days, we don't count weekends, then all of a sudden, which version are we using?
might I suggest that we define both calendar day and business day?
Only if we're going to use both.
Only if we're going to use both. Okay.
Unless you want to
Yeah.
distinguish them.
Right, well, there
We
may
can't do
there
both.
may be some instances where you want to distinguish
Okay.
a business day versus a calendar day, right?
Yep.
Like, for example, the 48 hours or 2 days to post meeting agenda.
2 days. No, 48 hours.
48 hours. 2 days. So but it's business day, it's
That's true.
business days,
That's true.
right? It's not the weekend.
Good point.
That's true.
So I would think there
So
would
we
be
really
instances where we
need
want
two-
both business day or calendar day.
But could that be handled as an exception? I think if we have a general definition that says whenever we count days, we're counting calendar days,
Yeah.
unless there's an exception. And if the exception says you can't count a holiday, you can't count a weekend, it's specific to that particular item, but it doesn't change the
Right.
general rule.
Yeah.
Right. And I think
So
also...
the generalized rule and then specific whenever there's an exception to the rule.
Right, and I think the issue we had with using workdays was town halls closed on Fridays, so...
Yeah.
Right,
Wow.
Right.
At the moment, it's closed on Fridays.
Right.
In 3 years, it could be closed on Wednesdays.
It could be open,
You
it
know,
could be
and
open...
Tim mentioned that. He
Right,
said
right.
you can't tie it to clerks' hours because that changes.
Right.
Election season, right, there's some nights or whatever.
Right, later.
They're open later for this, that. So the motion is to go with a calendar day, and that's the motion. So discussion on that. Well, right?
Well, actually, since you, as your discussion, as you were bringing that up, we may want to come back around to it after we've been through the whole document and see how many times Dave shows
Are
up.
in there, yeah.
So I would take my motion off the table.
Okay, so we need to check how many times.
Well, that's tedious.
No, you do a word search, okay, for days, right?
Yeah.
You just do a word search for days.
Do it.
And then determine context.
Business.
You do
Right,
it right
and then we
now.
have to determine context.
Yeah, and then you have to look at
Your
each one.
computer died?
No.
It did.
I would use mine, but I'm using, I don't
can
have
try
my
if
phone
it doesn't interfere with my notes.
Because basically, most of them are basically calendar days. I would go with the calendar days with a couple of exceptions like minutes, posting,
No,
posting
meeting
agendas,
agendas.
which is very
So I
specific.
have 28 instances of days.
Really?
I have the same.
All right. Who would like to look at the document and check out days? And come back? Oh, no, it's a public hearing.
No, can't do that.
Yeah. True. We're out of time. Let's look.
You know what, the context in all of these is calendar days.
I haven't taken a look yet.
Well, and then there's references to months too, in
We have
terms
that
of
defined.
like recalls and things of that nature,
And those are different.
which we should probably clean up
Okay.
and say 30, 60, 90 days versus months, so you don't get into the 30 versus 31.
Change.
And then there's the charter review every 10 years, so.
Change months
Ah,
to,
a year.
I like that, Tanner. Change months to, if it's 3 months, then you just make it 45 days. If
Well,
it's,
3 months, maybe 90.
I mean, 90 days,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, I'm on finance, I'm supposed to know.
Change months to actual
Days.
days. Okay. That makes sense.
seven instances of a month,
And that would just be changed to 30.
30 days.
And then we'd use 30 days as the number for month.
Yes. I think so.
Well, in substitution of one.
So
In
there's,
substitution of month.
there's one instance where we have 10 working days,
What is that?
section 4-4 for the acting town manager.
I would just,
During temporary absence, the select board or board of selectmen may not revoke such designation until at least 10 working days have elapsed. So that would be your exception.
right,
But it says,
could we do 14 calendar days?
Yeah, it's the same.
Well, unless there's a holiday,
Oh, my God.
then it's 15 days.
Well,
I think
you just pick a number, and a
Yeah.
holiday is a calendar day.
It's still a calendar day.
Right, but currently the language is working day. So I'm just,
On that one item.
on that one, well, I'm still,
We don't have to make it equal,
Scrolling.
we could think of the context and say, is that
Right.
long enough?
And actually,
Because
exactly.
unless it's an MGL.
They've,
In that, we can also go back to the definition, is that unless otherwise defined, a day will be a calendar day.
Unless
And then here, where
otherwise
it says
defined.
10 working days.
I would intend to agree with that.
now, so a working day for like town manager could be Monday through Friday versus
Could be Monday through Friday, but if there's a holiday, it's not a working day, which means that they have a little bit extra time.
time.
Because I think the other thing that you run into is, well, actually, you don't run into it with all committees, but one of the issues that in some of the places is that a committee may not meet that regularly. So giving them, instead of 10 days, giving them a couple of weeks would probably be a good thing. But, yeah.
And then relative to the agenda, section 7(8), B, we have a purple, says, except in an emergency, at least
48.
48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays. So there would be your exception.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and-
Because that says in an emergency, so you really have to notate specifics.
Right, and that's in purple because it used to be 24. That's
And
why
that's
it's purple.
referring to hours, so
Yeah.
that gets us away from the day.
Well, by putting instead of not including all of the days that include.
So,
But it doesn't include snow days either. No, it doesn't include snow days, I'm sorry.
So I guess Mark, if that's your motion to...
no, Terry's motion.
Terry's motion to define
Oh.
business days
Take
as
the calendar.
calendar days unless otherwise
Notate.
No.
notated.
Well, except I took that off the
Took
table.
that off the
We
table.
took it off the
She
table.
wanted to look at all the
Did you want to
days.
resubmit?
I will, unless somebody else wants to make the motion and actually put it in English, that would be fine. But, yeah, I would make the motion that we define in the definition section a day as a calendar day, except
When?
when stated otherwise within the document.
A second.
And I would second.
Point of order,
Yep.
did,
Jane,
Yes,
take
yes,
his-
I'll rescind my second.
Yeah, thank you.
sorry,
I was thinking about that.
yeah.
Sorry, I probably...
Calendar day
So you're
except
making an amended motion,
Mhm.
and Jim seconded.
Yeah.
Okay. Discussion on that.
I think unless the town council comes back and says, no, that's not the way you want to put it in.
We keep it simple. The simpler it is, I think the better off we're going to be.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Opposed? Okay, then that passes by the supermajority. So, I will need to go through the document and put all of that in
The definition
Just the
section.
definition.
bad definition.
It would be C.
What's the section 2?
1.7 definition.
1-7C.
Yeah, because it's medical.
Okay. We'll add, I'll come up with something. And we'll put it as Brown.
Brown.
You want to put it as Brown as,
Well, since we already voted and it's not, yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
well, just so we know it's something that's different?
Well, actually, yeah, yes, because when we go to public hearing, if somebody says...
Brown is appropriate, I think.
I think Brown, okay. So I will go through and change that to Brown. Steve, did you? And I'll go through the whole document and look where it says
Date.
days.
Okay.
How's that? And then check all.
Yeah, and I just scrolled through it, and there were just those few exceptions that were previously.
And they were, we can just leave the exceptions there.
Mhm.
But that tightens up the document as calendar days rather than working days or whatever. So no one can make the assumption.
Right.
Okay.
Are you also going to change the months to days?
Oh, yeah, change one.
Do you want to actually make a motion to that effect?
Should we make a motion that changes the...
Sure, go ahead.
Okay,
Make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to change anything that says months to actual days.
30 days.
30 days if it's
Per
1
month.
month?
30
Yes,
days.
30 days per month.
In February.
Yeah.
Including February.
'Cause you have months
February,
with
It's not like
31.
something says February. It says
Well,
month.
you're not, no
Right.
longer going to say 2 months, you're going to say
Yeah,
60 days,
60
regardless of what it is.
Right.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that passes too. Change months, okay? So I'll add a definition, change all the months to, if it's a year,
We'll leave a year.
year is a year.
365 days.
No.
I'm
360.
kidding.
I don't think, is there a year in there?
365.
There is,
It's fiscal year.
12 months
Fiscal.
is in there in more than one
12
instance.
months.
So
So
fiscal years in.
should that be just changed to 1 year, is that, or would that to
12.
365
Well,
days?
we didn't change the definition of months, so you could leave it in as 12 months, and that
Is
wouldn't be a
months in the
problem.
definitions?
No, we did not define months, so I think it's safe to leave it as 12 months.
Is it really? It's not defined.
It's not defined.
We just voted on it.
No, we just said that in the document, we're changing everywhere where it says 1 month, 2 months to 30 days,
30
60
days,
days.
right, so it would have to
Okay,
say...
so that's right, we didn't define
It would have to say, not 12 months, we'd have to say 365
Yeah.
days. 365.
We do
year.
not.
I don't know though, 12 months.
12 months,
Oh,
or 1 year.
We just say 12 months.
Because we're not defining a month, we're changing all the months to
Right,
days.
to days.
okay,
So,
we don't worry about it. All right.
No.
yeah.
That would be
Okay. Well, purple, so everyone was okay with the purple, right? Did I do that?
Yeah, we already did.
Purple, yeah.
Purple was good, all right.
We're on
Brown.
brown.
Section-
Wait. Point of order.
We did not vote on the purple.
I didn't think so.
No,
That's
we
why
did
was
not
asking.
vote on purple.
So I would make a motion that we vote to approve all the changes marked as purple, except anything that refers to days.
Sorry.
Discussion.
And months?
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So that passes. So purple is good. Purple is good. All right, in the browns, I found several sections, so we'll go through. 3.2D. That comes from public comments, holding an appointed person to be a voter.
Can we also, can we also back up to 2-3?
Yeah, 2.3B has
So
a brown.
2-3B is a brown regarding registered voters specific to FinCom.
Yes, you're right.
That is because of what happened with the...
Right.
the-
So I'm wondering if the issue is specific to voting at town meeting, and FinCom being a voting body at
Yeah.
that meeting, making recommendations. If that stays, and then the other appointed goes away, because FinCom will have been defined as a
See,
requirement.
any
voter
committee
registered
could
voters.
be a voting body, you know,
Yeah.
depending on who brings forward a warrant, any committee could in fact be asked for a recommendation.
Planning being
Right.
one, that's probably.
Can non-voting
You
members
just have to
bring...
call a meeting at the meeting.
But for an elected board, I think you have to be a registered voter
To run for election.
to be elected.
Papers.
Yeah, you have to be.
So
So
really, we're just talking about boards that are appointed.
Like the charter committee.
Yeah. But
I'm
if you
sorry.
can't vote on the charter, in general.
Did I just hear that in order to run for an elected position, you need to be a registered voter?
Yeah.
I believe so.
So why wouldn't we want the same thing for appointed positions?
And I think that's where we were when we discussed this
Yeah.
last year.
Well, that's why we marked it.
That's why it's put in, was put in.
So now the public comments referred to, had reasonings and all that about appointing should be open to anyone in the town to allow more people to be involved.
Like the Cultural Commission. I'm just wondering if there's an unintended consequence by limiting and restricting who participates in enhancing the town.
An appointed board.
And an appointed board, correct.
Let's make that, because elected, we're all set there.
What if they're registered somewhere else, because they have two homes?
If they are willing to step up and participate, and I don't see a reason why we couldn't let them participate. I'm thinking things like, Cultural Commission or the Ag Commission, Stormwater Task Force, things like these groups that they're residents, they pay taxes, they otherwise participate in government, they just, for one reason or another, don't or cannot vote at an election.
So, let me propose this. We've discussed it a little bit here. I would entertain a motion, one way or the other, it doesn't matter, so that we could give it a quick discussion, take a straw, or even take a straw vote to see where the committee as a whole stands. Does that make sense? And that would help us to decide which way we want to go with this. You know what I mean?
I do, and I'm just...
Or is it too
I just
early?
want to throw a wrench in the works for you. That will help.
Do what?
I'll throw a wrench in there for you.
Sure,
That
throw a
will
wrench, go
help. All right,
ahead.
so preference for appointment to committees shall be given to those who are registered to vote in town. I would leave the Finance Committee language the way it is, but I think that it may be that the Board of Selectmen may want some flexibility with that.
So instead of having an absolute,
You wrote preference.
just being a
Yeah.
preference.
Oh, change it, yeah, just a preference.
But two different references. One in
One
the
in the
Finance
And
Committee,
I would
leave it
leave that.
as
as is, and then the general one,
For everywhere
change
else.
to say preference.
Yeah.
For appointed.
I think
And if it's an
that's-
elected board, then
There.
you have to be registered.
Yeah.
voter.
Clearly.
Is that a fact that we know? Is that MGL? Do we
I'm
know
pretty
that?
sure, yeah.
Do we know what?
That you have to be registered to get elected?
To vote.
Bob would know.
Show
text Bob.
You got his cell
I mean, I don't know, I'm just,
That sounds nonsensical.
It
It
does.
does, it,
Yeah.
but I just
just
don't know.
like everything else, if you go to town meeting and you can't vote,
Well,
you can't vote on stuff. If you're not a registered voter, you just
Right.
sit there.
well, you can speak
You
up.
can speak up, but you're still not
You have to be
voting.
sponsored
Yeah,
Right.
in order to speak up.
yeah. So you can
Um,
speak, but you still can't make a vote on any of the warrants.
I think the language, when it comes to preference, is a little bit ambiguous in that theoretically, if you had two people applying for the appointment, and one was the ideal candidate, had all the background for that seat, but wasn't a registered voter, and then you had somebody that had very little background, wasn't an ideal candidate,
But was registered.
but was registered, who do you appoint? And I think it leaves far too gray of an area for a body to even try to take that into account. And I think logically, the people that are filling the appointment would probably consider that.
Well, potentially,
that-
right now, it's
that
not...
could be part
not
of the
necess-
screening.
Right, it's not even necessarily known, but yeah, if it's part of the screening. But, I mean, I'm willing to not, do that either, but...
Yeah, when I first started with this, it was pretty clear to me that if you want to be part of the the solution, be part of the solution, and be a registered voter. But having had several conversations over the last several weeks, it had me reconsidering that we might be
Oh,
leaving people out that maybe we don't want to and have some unintended consequences.
And for me, this kind of relates back to the minimum vote thing, because if you're of the mindset that, oh, well, we need these minimum votes and this person's got to go out and pull papers and do this work, and then here we are on the other side saying, well, we should encourage these people to participate and they shouldn't have to be registered. Well, if going out and getting the minimum signatures is a lot more work than registering to vote. I mean, you can go to town hall and be done in 5 minutes, right? So how does all this kind of piece together?
And you can do that if you're a citizen allowed to vote. But then we have other resident aliens who are participating in community but are unable to vote because
that would include convicts. Or people who have served their time.
Right.
I don't know how properly to
Right,
put that.
ex-con.
I did find eligibility of elected officials 3(1)(b) says any voter shall be eligible to hold any elective town office.
any voter.
Any voter shall be eligible to hold any elective town office, but no elected town official shall simultaneously hold any other elective town office.
And
So
to
it
be a
says
voter,
any
you
voter shall be
need to
eligible.
register.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that means you must be a voter to be eligible. Because it doesn't say anyone who lives within the town.
Resident.
Any resident. Is that what it says? Any voter. So that.
So that kind of opens up, again, back to the minimum number for the write-ins. You know, write-in candidates have to be registered to vote, right?
Yes.
But that's not specified anywhere in the charter at the moment.
Yes, it is. It says elected officials.
Anybody
Any
who's
voter
elected.
shall be eligible to
Yeah,
hold
even if
any
they're a
elected
write-in
town office.
candidate, they have to be
They're still
registered to
elected.
vote. Yeah, they're still elected.
Right.
And
So
if someone
that's
wrote in somebody who wasn't registered
page
to
3 at the
vote,
bottom.
they just wouldn't be elected.
Yeah.
Which is why Mickey Mouse never gets elected.
Yeah, exactly. Or Donald Duck or any
Donald
other
Duck.
If
people.
you register, we could
Yeah.
elect them.
Right. If someone registered as Mickey Mouse.
There's some other weird names out there. So, did we have a motion at all? No, yes.
No.
No, we haven't. We're
We're
discussing
still discussing it.
possibly using the language in section,
Well, basically, yeah, whether or not people want to stay with the appointments to committees shall be those who are registered to vote in town.
so registered to vote, or you said preferred
Preference will be a...
preference will be given,
Is what?
or open to any town resident. Those are the three options.
And I think the question goes to, you know, like, and actually, I would feel much more comfortable hearing from boards what their feelings on that would be, that are not elected
A
boards.
survey? We need to send a survey monkey?
I don't know. I think basically, I just don't want to, I know
Right.
that when we change that, or if we change that, and then we go to public hearing, and all the you know, like, members of boards are present, they're going to, you know, if there's any question on it. But I also understand that, yes, what you want is people who are interested in participating, and to the extent that you can get people participating, are there committees or boards where it should be a voting member or a voter, and are there committees where that's not as big a deal?
So here's a perspective. Both of these are changes to the existing charter. I understand wanting to change the FinCom so that they're a registered voter because of the import of the FinCom with respect to voting and things of interest to the town. As far as appointments, I feel less strongly about it. Given that it's a change to the charter, we should think very carefully before we change anything. I think it makes sense in the Finance Committee section. I'm not sure it makes sense in the appointment section,
Right, and the language was added, the language was not there.
in both sections.
No, I understand, but I would still, whether or not it needed to be added in this section.
But it was added because of the finance
Right,
thing.
because
Maybe
of
it
what
was an overreach, maybe it wasn't.
That's what-
Right,
Yes.
right.
It's not an overreach on the FinCom issue.
Right.
It may be an overreach on the
Other
general
all
appointments clause.
Is that,
Is what I'm saying.
is that a point you'd like to bring up at the public hearing?
It all depends on whether the language is going to stay in. So, and if so it may come up at the,
Well, that would be, I'm assuming what we need to do is give a bulletin of the things that are changing, like this,
Well, we're
or
going
possible
to
changes.
pros and cons, weren't we?
yeah.
Well, that's an interesting question. All right, when we vote supermajority, are we voting that we think it should pass, or are we voting that we think it's important enough that the town get a chance to debate it and vote one way or the other? Because things have changed since our first go-around. We thought it was an all or nothing.
Right.
I don't have the answer to the question I just asked. I mean, but it's something we should think about.
Right.
You know, when I signed up for this committee, they told me it would be done in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After town.
We're in public comment.
So,
It's not in public comment.
I do have a question though. Could we cover this under the definitions of what elected official is, to the point where an elected official is a voter of the town?
I think we're only talking about appointed now, right? Didn't we already?
Yeah, we're talking about like-
We're only talking appointed positions.
And we're,
But I'm
I think we're trying to
clarifying the
discuss,
language, right?
we're proposing to add language that's not in the existing charter.
Correct.
If we're going to do that, we should have a real good reason for doing it.
And if there's already language in here that says that an elected official is a voter, then adding the FinCom section of 2.3 is redundant.
No.
Because that's an
FinCom's
appointed.
appointed.
FinCom's appointed.
It's not appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
Apologies.
Right.
It's in two places because the
spaced
FinCom
out.
has that's okay, the school committee, the moderator, and the Board of Selectmen
Right.
appoint. So that's why it was separate in the FinCom, it's a whole separate
Because the
appointment
last
process.
So-
time the appointment was made, it was a person who was not a registered voter, and the committee was not made aware of that until after the appointment was made.
So they're talking about all the other committees that are appointed, the
Architectural
park,
preservation.
yeah,
Right.
preservation and all that. So,
And you want all the help you can get there, so yes.
so what would happen there is we would keep the FinCom and just take out all the other references to,
There's only the one other reference, and that's under the Board of Selectmen,
Under the
The
appointments.
appointments.
under appointments. So,
3-2D.
yeah.
3-2D. So, let's see. Chair recognizes,
Thank you.
I forgot your name.
Darren, thank you. With due respect, thank you for this fruitful conversation. I just want to acknowledge one point that was made by yourself, where you said including the actual committee that's participating here tonight as well. And so my point with that is, all of you, to my understanding, are registered voters. And so that actually happens in this room right now, not to be somebody in the category questioning, potentially to exclude. So I am typically sensitive to various minorities, and I notice that even right now in this group, there's potential for other people who could be on this committee, and were this language to be included, they would be excluded. So,
Okay, thank you. I believe the original charter doesn't say anything except we're adding finance committee.
Actually, I'm going to take a shot and guess that the charter appointment, the charter committee appointment is probably in here somewhere and probably doesn't have any reference at all.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, could I just have a very brief question in regards to this?
Chair recognizes Mr. Bastos.
Thank you. Dave Passios, 56 Whiting Street. My only question is, was resident of Lunenburg included in the eligibility for appointee? I seem to remember in the back of my mind that that wasn't even in there. So you could be somebody from out of town and be appointed the way it was worded, but I could be wrong. So even if you took out the registered voter, there may still be a change in there.
Appointments to committees, that's yours.
I'm thinking of the other section that specifically talks about appointed committees other than finance.
Shall we?
Doesn't appear to be replacing anything.
And
It's Brown.
It's Brown.
But
No,
no, under appointments, Dave.
Yep.
It doesn't appear to be replacing anything struck out, so I think it's silent on either residents or registered. I'm just trying to find out what...
Okay, so if you maintain the the resident, it's a change.
Registered voters are the only ones that get the budget mailed to them.
I'm still on the appointment.
I gotta go find the original.
Voters?
That's my only concern, is I think one of the biggest concerns was that a person from outside of Lunenburg, outside of the state of Massachusetts, could be appointed to a board in this town where it was the lack of wording in there. It would have to be verified, but I seem to remember that conversation.
Item 1.1, incorporation. The inhabitants of the town of Lunenburg within the corporate limits by law shall continue to be a body corporate in politic with perpetual succession under the town of Lunenburg. So, in effect, town meeting is the inhabitants of the town. Section 1.1. So, to your point, resident is covered.
But is it covered specifically in the wording for eligibility for appointment?
Doesn't have to be.
I'll have to research it some more. I'll be back to you in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, we went to the radio. So, basically the charter states at the moment, without any changes, that anyone can be appointed to any committee as long as they're a resident in town, correct?
Doesn't say anything about residents.
Yeah.
1.1.
1.1, he's saying
Inhabitants
that
of the
it's
town.
inhabitants of the town.
Shall continue to be a body corporate in
And
politic.
corporate.
It doesn't say that you have to be a resident to be.
But that's what
appointed.
town meeting is. Town meeting is
For residents.
our form of government.
See, I think it's the body corporate or politic. Politic would be the political parts, the
We're
committees.
We're parsing words that we don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
The inhabitants of the town, it's pretty clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So,
Well, if it, yeah.
quicker when I can make motions.
Gavel.
I need a gavel. No. I would love to entertain a motion that we just delete the Brown appointments to committees shall be those who are registered to vote in town, and to leave the Finance Committee one in.
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
That's- oh, I gotta write this in. Discussion?
Yes. Section 3 refers to, and actually this may be what you also might want to clarify in here, is that in here where we talk about appointments to committees, we're actually in the section on elected officials, and in that case, all appointments to those committees should be registered voters. Where are you?
What?
In Section 3 itself, I know that we're in the Board of Selectmen, but basically, the Board of Selectmen also appoints people to serve until the next election, elected members.
Oh, okay,
So I
where's
think-
that?
it doesn't exist anywhere. So it's like, but basically, Section 3 is elected officials, so I'm just, because...
So we're talking about elected officials.
Not necessarily, but I think we should, and I think
Which
that...
is probably why we put it in there.
No,
No?
but I think that it may be that we can either take it out or say appointment to elected committees shall be those who are registered to vote.
No, Section 3-2 is spelling out what is the select board or the board of selectmen.
Okay,
And it's covering their
their duties.
duties and appointments, and that's why it's showing in that section. Has nothing to do with elected, it has everything to do with the Board of Selectmen.
And their duties.
Okay, so then basically, if we were to then go to...
Then 3.3 goes to school committee.
Well, if it was 3.1F,
There it is. That's it.
1F.
Hold on.
No, we need it. We put things up, come to big board.
yeah.
Filling vacancies, town offices. If there's a failure to elect, or if a
That's
vacancy
up to the
occurs in
town
the
clerk.
office of the town clerk. Multiple member body, if there's a failure to elect, or if a vacancy occurs in the membership of any elected multiple member body, including the school committee, unless the provisions of a will or trust provide for a different method, the remaining members of the multiple member body shall forthwith give notice of such vacancy to the select board and to the public in the manner provided in section 710. The select board with the remaining members of such multiple member body shall, after 1 week's notice of the date of which the vote shall be taken, fill such vacancy until the next town election by a joint vote.
So even if it's not, they're filling an elected position, but it's vacant once there's a vote, it gets replaced by whoever's voted in.
So she's trying to say, should we say that this, it should be clarified that this should be a registered voter? And these for elected positions, when they fill a vacancy,
Right.
like we did this year for school committee.
Right.
And then just leave it silent under the select board itself. I mean, I'm fine with leaving it silent there, but I think that basically if there comes a time when someone is trying to be appointed to an elected body.
And that was 3-1-F.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was.
Actually, F, paragraph 1, says that the select board shall in writing appoint some suitable person.
So suitable.
Where is that?
Officer, though.
Well, that's the town clerk. I
That's
think we have to go
town
to 2.
Yeah, you have to go to the multiple member body.
No, this is, I'm looking at 3-1,
Hold
Yeah,
on.
general provisions,
yeah,
Town
Yeah.
officer. F.
3-1F,
Yeah.
filling of vacancies.
yeah.
Which one are you looking at?
And 1 is
is
specifically
town
for town
officer.
clerk. 2 is
Town
the
clerk.
one.
It actually says town officer.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it.
Town
different than
officer
we do.
is the town clerk.
In the office of the town clerk.
Right. So
But then 2 is the
so
one
we
that
have a
applies.
typo.
Yeah.
Where I can't even find it, so.
Oh, no, we're here.
Article
On page
3.
5.
Filling vacancies, what?
So he was reading here, but he was reading where it was
Appoint
saying
some
town officer and
suitable
not
person to
over to the
serve.
town office.
But you're right,
So
that's town
The
clerk.
town clerk.
Or,
But then number 2, right below that, says
We're,
multiple member body, and it's
vacancies.
silent on that, right?
Right.
Number 2, and where?
Right.
Because I like that word.
It doesn't exist.
Oh, that's why, I'm looking for it.
Yeah, you're not going to
It
find
doesn't
it because it's not there. That's-
Mr. Chair, can I give a point of information on that? Legal
Chair.
opinion I got.
Sure. Chair will recognize Mr. Passio.
Thank you. In regards to paragraph F, I asked for a determination from town council. He would have to verify it for you, and it was unofficial, but he felt that that section did allow for appointment of a, let me say this again. It becomes an appointed elective position. So it can be appointed until the next election, so you do not have to be a registered voter for that time period. And you can also hold multiple offices during that time period, as long as they're not both elected positions. You're appointed to an elective position, and you can be elected, be an elected official at the same time during that short period of time till the next election. That was what he explained to me.
Okay.
Thank you. So, not being a selected person.
Which sounds like it would have happened with the situation with FinCom. So you had somebody appointed. Oh, wait, that
No, it's not
It's not
elected.
elected.
I got there.
Have you run into issues with appointing people who aren't voters?
Well, I happen to be on the group that appointed the FinCom, and we
So was
appointed
I.
it because we didn't know that,
It was.
well, we didn't know the candidate wasn't
Registered.
registered.
So,
And that becomes an issue after the fact.
And then we had legal tell us, we had him look at the charter, and he said, no, he can sit on it because it's not in the charter.
Okay, which is why we added it to the FinCom.
right.
So now the question is, do we want to tighten it up in the rest of the charter?
So the motion on the table that has been
Thank you.
duly seconded
Thank you.
is that we keep the language that we added to the FinCom section, and we remove the language that we added to the general appointment section.
Okay, so now we can just do it all in favor?
I would entertain, move the question, that would...
You're
Would I
famous
see-
for moving the
Move the
question.
I know, but I can't do it as chairman.
Move the question.
I
You're
know.
famous for that.
I am famous. So, any more discussion?
Yes, we did, Claude.
All right, let's take a vote. Those in favor of removing the Brown mention in 3.2D, as we discussed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
And that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a supermajority. So we take that out.
And what was your vote, Mr. Chair?
I only vote if there's a tie.
No.
I
No, you have to
vote.
You vote all the
I would
time.
vote to take it off, take it out.
So 7-1 is the official vote.
Actually, I thought chair people only voted with
No.
one tie.
Mm-mm.
Especially since we need a supermajority.
No, no.
Oh, is it?
And
Okay.
you're here to make it, we're all here to make it an odd number, so you vote
Yeah,
on
you have to
everything.
vote.
Oh, I can vote, okay, great.
Is there a need to add it to the other section?
Oftentimes, the chair will vote last
Right.
and act as the tiebreaker. But
Okay.
that's fine.
All right. So, well, 4.4B, 4-4B was another Brown section.
You had a question.
I did,
we
because
need-
do we
did
need to clarify
add
it in the other section?
The elected,
The
multiple
filling
member...
multiple member
filling.
body.
That is
That's 3F.
3.1F.
Yeah,
3-1F.
3.1F2.
3.1F.
Multiple member body.
Do we want-
Anybody want to make a motion anywhere?
do we think we need town council to weigh in on that?
They're going to weigh in on the whole thing.
They're going to weigh in
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the microphone. I'll make a
What
motion.
are
that
you
we-
on?
The multiple member body, when it's, when you're appointing it to an elected board.
See, there, I think you need to leave it.
Yeah. I think-
You have to put it in, right, it's not in there.
Yeah, it's not in there.
It's not in
that-
there. Do we
that's
need to put it in there?
No, because it's an appointment.
But it's appointment to an
An
elected
elected,
board.
because you're
It's
really
still an
looking to
appointment,
appoint
though.
somebody that might run.
Well, actually, they can't run.
They can't run.
Still an appointment.
Right.
And that still functions
Okay.
as an appointment.
They could always register to vote after being appointed.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay,
If they choose to.
If they choose
If they
to.
choose to,
but if they don't, then they're off the board.
election,
If they choose to run.
they would have to.
Right.
They're off the board after like 3 months,
And they can't
6
be a
months,
write-in.
9 months. So actually, it's probably, yeah.
It's probably better to
Yeah, it's
leave it
probably
that
right.
way.
It's probably,
Just leave it the way it is.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. 4-4B was the other big Brown section. I didn't write page numbers. I gotta print one of these.
Should run my laptop.
Will town hall print, will the town print us copies of this?
What section are you on?
I wrote 4-4B.
There's no book
No,
burn on
I
there.
think
There's
it's
4-2C.
4-5B.
That's Brown.
4.5B, there's
4B,
no...
4.5, yeah.
4.5, but in 4.4...
Oh, I have 4-5, A and B. I do have 4, 5.
It's 4, 5, but not 4, 4.
4, 5.
All right, I'm gonna find 4.
We skipped over 3-10.
Yep, that's in there too, 3-10.
So why are we going out of order?
Because I found 3-10 after I found
Oh.
4. All right, did you want to go to 310? We should go probably in order. All right, 310. I'm still looking for planning board. The town manager will, 310C. The town manager will be responsible for supervision, evaluation of all personnel actions related to this position. The town manager may appoint and, if necessary, remove the planning director as the land use director to oversee land use departments, including the building, conservation, and zoning board of appeals departments. And this is under the planning board section. And it's under appointments.
It's the appointment of the planning
Planning
director
director.
specifically, not the
Correct.
board.
Okay, and that was basically what, it was the understanding of this committee that the planning board brought to the, as a recommendation. Or that they agreed with the recommendation. I'm trying to remember how the
Yeah.
language actually went.
And so Tanner, your thoughts on that?
I don't have an issue with it right now. I mean, seeing as how it's appointed by the board. And then the town manager is just involved in the day-to-day operations.
Well, I mean, appoint and remove.
No, the
Says by
appointment
the
is
town
by the
manager.
town manager,
Appointment by
previously
the town
stated. So if you go
manager
back to the beginning of section
Oh.
6.
and affirmed by the, well, unless the board rejects it.
Right.
So,
Actually, just a history on that one, that's the way it is today. This wording was to kind of allow for land use director as opposed to planning.
okay.
It was the combination of the Adams job as
Yeah.
opposed to Marion Benson's job.
So, I would entertain a motion to accept that.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the language in 310C.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, discussion. Tanner, you,
Well, the only
Planning
thing I'm
board.
thinking is on the 15th day, we only meet every other week. So depending on the timing, especially around the holidays, it could be possible that the town manager appoints somebody and we don't have
I mean,
a meeting.
But it's
that's-
the 15th day after she tells you about it.
And that's not a change, that's the existing language.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if
well,
there should be more days.
following the day in which the notice of the appointment is filed with the members.
Yeah. So essentially, she appoints and then we have 15 days to
Is filed,
reject the appointment.
is
Yeah,
filed with the
send you a
planning board.
file.
I guess I could be wrong, I guess I read that she would do that at a planning board meeting.
Well, I think what happens
But
is,
but maybe I'm reading into it that isn't there, I don't know.
well, actually, it looks like that what happens is the appointment doesn't happen until 15 days after the town manager notifies the planning board of the appointment.
Well, she makes the appointment and then it becomes effective on the 15th day following
Yes, within that
Following
period.
notice.
notice. So she could appoint on Monday, provide us notice, and then we have
No meeting.
15 calendar
Yeah.
days
Right.
So you're
to
suggesting,
get a meeting together and
you're
reject.
suggesting that the number should be changed then?
Yeah. The challenge with it is it slows business down in that if she appoints somebody and we don't have a person in that role, then,
Right.
So, point of order,
but we could,
Yeah.
we're talking about the language in Brown.
Right.
But he's talking about the language not in Brown.
That would be a
Exactly.
separate, that would be
Thank
a
you very
separate
much.
motion. Right.
So, are you good with the Brown?
fine with the Brown.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now you're bringing up, would you, Tanner, look at that 15-day and in your calendar, you know when you meet. Can you try to think of a situation where there would be like Christmas and New Year's, I'm thinking, happen in such a way that you would need more days because we could change the date?
Well,
days.
the challenge with planning is we meet on Mondays,
Oh, Monday, how?
lots of holidays.
Yeah.
Would
So
you
we end
look
up with
and
both.
come up with another number that we can?
I mean, we could always call a special meeting. I mean,
Right.
that's a potential, I'm just thinking.
Well, the other thing that's not clear is what 15th day means here, because it's not specified whether it's calendar or business.
It will be.
It will
It
be
will be
calendar because
a
we define
calendar
the
day.
day.
Now, no, I'm saying
Oh,
now
Now,
it is.
see, that changes
But
for you.
historically-
Do you want to look at that and see whether you need
Yeah, I'll bring
30
it up.
days,
Yeah,
which then gives you...
and knowing that,
Or 21, because this
Yeah,
could have
21.
been 3 weeks.
and knowing that there's an appointment, if that appointment is filling a vacancy, the board could choose to meet to affirm it.
Right.
You could choose. Would you want to look at that and maybe talk it over with some of your
Yeah.
planning board people? Because we can change the number, because we've changed the definition of days. If you have a thing. Okay, so that one is good. 4, 5, let's see what the number
You're
is.
skipping sewer commission. Or are we done looking at all grounds?
313C.
Yeah, I think what we're doing is...
Oh, yeah, I have 313C there too. Yep, thanks. Town manager will be responsible for supervision, evaluation, and all personnel actions relating to this position, and that's the sewer commissions.
That's the sewer business manager, so that's
Yeah.
currently...
I believe when we were looking at this document, we were trying to make the town manager involved with personnel and...
Isn't that her
give-
job?
Well, and I think just spelling it out in
Yeah.
all the things.
Clarification.
A motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and I apologize, now it's 4-4.
Actually, we still have
4-1.
4-1.
4-1, 2 town registered
Well, you
voters.
just can't really see the brown in there.
You know what, I have to come up with a better copy. 4-1. Discussing about qualification appointments. Two town registered voters who are not a member of any committee or elected position in the town to be appointed by the town moderator, and they're talking about
Committee, this committee.
The
No,
town manager.
Oh, the hiring.
Right.
Shelby,
Yeah.
and I believe Tim brought this up, and we came up with 2 town registered voters because that made an odd number of people. And they wanted to include a member of the community. And the town moderator, so that there would be a voice of the people in the town in regard to these,
Right,
if I remember correctly.
right, for the screening committee, right?
For the
Yeah.
screening, and that is, wait a minute, I'm going to write this down again, 4-1. I'm writing a bigger copy.
Interesting that it says registered
It
voters,
does, right there.
Yes.
because this is new language,
Right.
right?
Yeah, it's all new.
Remember the finance, this is to appoint, to elect the town
Screening
manager.
The screening committee for the town manager.
Yep.
So, should we take out registered voters?
No, I would
Or
just
to
leave it.
town,
I would make a motion to accept the language as
as written?
yeah.
Second.
Okay, there's a second, now discussion.
Well, why are we making these people have to be voters as opposed to residents?
Yeah, that's-
When we said FinCom was the only one that we wanted registered voters, so why is this different? I think just residents would work. Because again, then people can't be on the screening committee if you're a felon or da-da-da, so I'd say make it residents.
And to that point, Nancy, I think this language was proposed when the other language had been proposed as well.
Right.
So to be consistent, we should take it out here as well.
I agree.
So, we should vote this,
Or
amend the...
Okay, I'll amend my motion to 2 town residents who are not a member of any committee or elected position in the town.
and
I'll
whoever
amend my
second-
second, to second that.
Okay. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I gotta remember all these.
It'll
You
be
don't
in
have to
the-
go through and take that, like, is that something that you just want to strike that's in there all the
Oh,
time?
yeah, just strike. No, I,
Like, are there any other places that says registered voters?
I don't
Yeah.
think so, because it was all new.
It was all
Yeah,
new.
that's
So we probably should do a search at the end.
Okay, I have 4.4B or 4...
4.2C,
4.2.
but that was to strike language?
Yeah.
And then there's adding council on aging.
No.
ACO.
Say again? Oh,
Or
okay,
to see
yes.
strike some ground language but add to others.
We voted to remove what we wanted to add and to recommend the Board of Selectmen that. That's something that wasn't there that I think we decided not to put in. Support to the officers town. This is for powers and duties.
Okay, so that was, okay, so the 4.2C was taking out language that has already been changed because,
And then adding town treasurer, town collector, director of municipal finance, council on aging director, and ACO.
so they're basically appointed by the town manager, ratified by the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
And we included the Council of Aging Director and Animal Control Officer. I think we were just cleaning up because we have new positions now. We have a town treasurer and a town collector that's different than 10 years ago.
No, we were just changing it from the Board, like, first it was that the town manager would recommend to the Board of Selectmen to appoint these candidates, but now they're saying the town manager will appoint and the Board of Directors will ratify the appointment.
Yeah, the other way
That's the
around.
change.
So the town manager
It's
will
giving-
recommend and the Board of Selectmen will ratify.
Yeah, yes.
They don't do that already?
Well,
What was
they'll appoint.
The town manager will appoint. It used to say the select board would appoint,
Oh,
but
okay.
now it says the town manager will appoint after ratification.
But they have to be ratified
It's the same
by
thing as with the
select board.
planning director.
Yeah.
So where the planning director was appointed by the town manager, but the planning board had the right to say no.
All right, so...
And that's in there too.
Shall entertain a motion to keep that. That's 4.
Or keep that change.
Keep that change. 4.2C.
I move that we accept the language for 4.2C, the Browns.
Just the brown.
Just
Yeah, Brown.
Yeah, the red is,
Yeah,
Red
we're
is
only
red.
doing Brown. We're only doing
Very
Brown.
good.
Right. Yeah, very good. All right, discussion? All in favor?
I'm sorry, who second?
Second?
I'll
Okay.
second.
I'm sorry.
I don't,
Discussion?
Somebody said.
you first. you-
I heard, yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? So we'll okay that. The next is H, I. Maintenance of, what's this? Squishy document.
Well, this is also...
4.2I.
Yeah.
So it's still the town manager to have jurisdiction over the...
Right, but it's also subject to written policies, and I think that one of this was where the cemetery commission had wanted to have themselves added,
Yeah.
and there was some discussion about whether or not parks should be in there.
And the cemetery did send us, as I sent to you guys, the deeded rights. Did you see the original 1937 deeded rights that said that the land would be used by cemetery for cemetery duties? And I think that was very similar to when we discussed the conservation lands. Sometimes they're deeded for specific use. And that's why we put in subject to written policies, because certain things in the town have riders on them.
Right, and I think that what the cemetery commission brought forward was that they were talking about a town facility. Not necessarily land, but they were talking about...
They weren't talking about the cemetery, they were talking about the garage they're about to build.
Right.
Right.
Which is on a piece of property that was deeded for use by the cemetery.
which is two different issues, I think.
Okay.
What we were trying to get at here is who's responsible for maintenance and repair of buildings? And we were trying to clarify the language here. And the only thing we took out was the library trustees, so that the town manager has full jurisdiction of everything except for school committee and conservation. Now the cemetery would like to add cemeteries in there.
Right. That's another discussion we're just looking at the
That to
brown.
me would be red.
Yeah.
This is brown because we didn't view it as changing anything. We simply were cleaning up the wording and making it consistent with current policy.
Right.
That's why it was brown.
Does anyone have any issues with that?
I would make a motion that we accept the brown and discuss the other recommendation as a red
Second.
later on.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on the brown?
Well, I think subject to written policies makes it, actually could address some of the other issues that are potentially coming up. I don't know whether or not there's any issue with trying to put a space holder like was done with the CAFO becomes town manager 10 years ago, but yeah, that was done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? All right. L. Office of Town Manager contracts, town employees, and bargaining unit subject to ratification by the select board. I think that was because we didn't have bargaining units before, right? Because now we have employees who are unionized. Right?
Just a formatting suggestion, we make select board red.
Say it again.
The
Select
words,
board red.
yeah.
In that line.
Just that line, the word select board is red. Because we have,
At the end
Oh,
of
well,
the-
Red everywhere else.
that's a commercial.
You know, you're right.
We have to keep that red, but the rest can stay brown.
Yeah, the subject to ratification by
What
the
happens when you put red?
board of selectmen or select
You
board.
get really lousy color. Trust me, I am not using
You get a
office.
certain little emoji.
All right. Well, select board would be
Just
So
the
that's the
formatting.
next brown
just the
one
formatting.
too. It's also in the next brown.
So if we make select board red, I would move we approve the language in brown in section 4-2L.
Second.
I'll second that.
All right, discussion? In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I will assume that all select boards would be in red, and I'll have to go through it again.
Yeah, because it's in
That's
there.
obviously just a
Yeah.
typo. So, did we finally get to 4.4?
4.5.
4.5.
5B, right?
4.5. Oh, yeah, there's a 5. B. This is talking about removal and suspension of the town moderator, correct? With the select board, which should be in red, so we'll have to change.
What?
Town
No.
manager.
No, town manager with the town moderator is who the filing goes to. The select board, if they want to, if somebody
Yeah,
wants to...
we have to change that to red because,
No, I understand. No, but the 5 day, it's the
Town manager.
town manager may request if
It's
town
the
manager's
removal of
being
the
removed.
town manager,
Not removal of the town moderator.
oh, I'm sorry, I meant to
Mr.
say
Murphy.
manager, thank you
Okay.
very much. Is anyone, should we do that whole section together? And then there's the town moderator shall preside over the hearing. Tim brought this up. The original one did not have any way for the town manager to address, to have legal representation
Sure.
at their hearing and to be able to speak. So I believe all of this was put in so that the town manager could then respond to anything and have legal representation.
Right.
So,
So this language has been reviewed by
I
town
believe it
council?
was.
Yeah.
So,
That would be my only concern too. I want to make sure that the...
Tim reviewed it and said it worked. I don't remember if Bob said if the town council...
Tim's not
Well, town council's going to look at
Tim's
all of
council.
this anyway, so I suppose...
But can we highlight that section? For the town council to make sure.
Just to make sure it was...
Yeah.
Town council.
And I'll make a motion to accept the changes in
Check.
4-5B
5B.
I'll
as
second.
presented, yeah.
With select board going to red.
Yeah,
Yeah, select board, yeah. Yeah, there it is again.
Yep.
I'll make it mine red. Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that passes. The next one is
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven. We'll get to the end of that. Really, it's like
The
7-8.
Is there a 7-8? I didn't see 7-8.
7-8,
Oh, a
yeah.
tiny, okay, there it is. 30 days.
Filling of vacancies.
Filling vacancies, and there's a pool.
looking for 7, 8. Oh, yeah.
Elected or appointed?
Appointed.
This is, thought you were supposed to...
Multiple member body, it doesn't say.
It says appointed.
It says an appointed multiple member body.
Membership of an appointed.
Oh, yes. then.
See it?
All right. I should have brought a bigger device.
Yeah, what are you looking at?
I'm not sure.
I
I'm
don't
looking
know how
at
you
that.
can see that.
I can't. But there now I can.
Multiple member body shall
Oh, there you
provide.
go.
And there is a proof. Yeah, this one,
Can anyone tell me why we put that in there?
Yeah. It's finance committee, we're a mess.
I don't, like...
Okay, basically, there was, the part of the, and I think we wanted to revisit this section altogether, because basically, one of the things that happens is, if there's no pool of candidates available, 30 days is not a lot of time to fill a vacancy. Because basically, on notice, like, if I send a notice to the town manager, then the town manager needs to post an advertisement for it.
Oh, okay.
Then you also have to get the town moderator, somebody from the school committee, and somebody from the select board all together. Our appointment thing in particular created a problem.
Yeah.
Unless there was a pool, there's no way that you're going to hit the 30 days.
Can't you change the number of days then?
Well, the other thing, we can change the number of days, but the other thing that it does not say is at what point does the appointment revert back to the appointing authority? Because right now, so basically this says that if the appointing authority doesn't make an appointment within 30 days, it falls to the committee to make that appointment.
Yeah.
And it never gives it back to the appointing authority. So if there is no pool of candidates available, then that vacancy just continues or is appointed by the committee where the vacancy exists, but based on what? So it was, and I think my take on it was, as a member of the finance committee, is that at some point I want to give that back. I don't want to necessarily be responsible for appointing people who I'm going to be sitting on a committee with, because I would like to just, like call a friend. Because I just like people who agree with me 100%.
Does that work for all the other?
It's so much easier when everybody has the same opinion. Meetings are quicker, too.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, it would be nice if I had the same opinion myself from the beginning of the meeting to the end.
So, is there a motion on this brown section? I keep moving this around.
I still want to visit this whole section.
Well, if
I
you
don't
visit
have
the whole section, then you can come back and rewrite the whole section. We're looking right now.
And there is a pool of candidates. It's
I
the
am
only thing
trying
that-
to move this.
I understand.
I agree with Terry in the sense that you don't want to let this go on forever. You have two objectives. You want to make sure everybody knows it's open, which would kind of force you to make it a longer period, but you want to fill it as, you don't want anybody to be able to drag their feet. Maybe it does need a little bit of work. Maybe the solution is that sometime the multiple member body alerts the appointing body that we're going to do this in 20 days if you don't do it or something. I don't know. I'm trying to say what you just said.
Well,
That
actually,
may need some work.
well, no, what I'm saying is that what this does is it says that it never goes back to you, even if that vacancy sits open for a whole year, then we are, or any any committee is responsible for finding their own person to sit on there. And I think that it never goes back to the original process, in which case, if it goes back to the original process and the town manager is posting, hey, we have this opportunity available, come along, I would want to give that back. to whoever the appointing authority is. So say for finance committee, but again, that's the
Well, this
difficulty with
doesn't even
finance.
say what happens if there's no pool.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I mean,
clarified.
Right, which is the whole other part was that there's no way that you can hit the 30 days if there's
Right.
nobody in the pool.
Right.
You can't, or
And it
we
doesn't say
can't.
where it goes if there's no
Right.
pool.
Right, so basically, if, and some committees, that's not a problem for it, because most committees are appointed by the Board of Selectmen, or vacancies are appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and you guys meet every week, except for the end of the month, but you can get a more timely action taken, but again, the Finance Committee having, somebody on vacation in September who is the town moderator, then all of a sudden, you don't get that month. Now granted, because we're somewhere in there appointing somebody to fill in for the town moderator, it might be that person who then has to get the meeting together, I don't know, so.
So you want to change the language in this? You
I
want
do.
to tighten up the language?
I do, but,
All right.
it's like,
So
but I'll accept the Brown.
I'm going to say, why don't we accept the Brown, because we can always come back after our January meeting and tweak it.
Okay. But
Because we can tweak this
I just
all the
don't
way
want, I
to
just
the
don't want
warrant.
to forget about it, because basically we've had this discussion
We'll
before.
put a note right here.
Put a note right here, I'm going to give it to you.
I'm sorry. Wow, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So,
So,
I thought it was a committee.
Huh?
Now it's a new committee.
It is a new committee,
Yeah.
yes. All right.
well,
So anyway, but
until you come up with a language that we could look at and
Yeah.
say yes or no, I'd rather have you go back and look at it, rewrite it the way you'd like. But for intents and purposes, to get ready for the public meeting, we need to say yay or no on the...
I'm happy to make a motion to accept the Brown in that section.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So that's okay at the moment. And then now it's 7:11, right?
7-Eleven.
Shall be the duty of the town manager to see that the provisions of the charter and town general bylaws are faithfully followed and complied with by all town agencies and town employees. Whenever it appears to the town manager that any town agency or town employees failing to follow any provisions of this charter or town general bylaws, the town manager shall in writing cause notice to be given to such agency or employee directing compliance with the charter. If it shall appear to the select board, it should be in red, that the town manager personally is not following the provisions of the charter or town general bylaws, it shall by resolution direct the attention of the town manager to those areas in which they believe there is a failure to comply with the charter provisions. The procedures made available in Chapter 231A of the Mass General Laws may be used to determine the rights, duties, status, or other legal relations arising under this charter or town general bylaws, including any question or construction or validity which may be involved in such determination.
Is there a reason why we had the 231A in there?
It
And
sounds like
didn't just leave it as
illegal.
Mass General Laws?
I vaguely remember that there was a reason, but I don't remember what it was.
Where did the language come from?
Yeah, who drafted that language?
No clue.
I'm going to get Bob.
I think Bob got it from town council.
That's my...
I don't know that for a fact, but
Because basically all that says is the town manager will make sure that everyone's complying with the charter and the bylaws.
And the selectmen will make sure the town manager is...
Yeah.
Right, so there's a check and balance,
Yeah.
and I think that's what's important. And I don't have a
But
problem
I
with
guess
that.
that 231 applies to either condition, right?
Right, yeah, no. And I
So-
assume that it would,
231A must discuss what happens.
well, no, I guess that my question is that typically when we were putting Mass General Laws in, we weren't referring to a particular section just because that could change over the course
Sure,
of 10 years.
we could amend it just to say Mass General Laws,
Oh, we're doing that.
available
That's what,
in
yeah.
in the Mass General
Because
Laws.
that's what happens, and they can be out of date.
Actually, that makes
And
sense
then
too, because the
you're referring to
procedures, you're going to
something
go to
that's not
whatever
there.
section in the Mass General Laws talk about procedures. I guess. I don't know what 231A is.
procedure for declaratory judgments.
So it's about,
Made by whom?
and it just says may be used. So they're just referencing the general laws.
Got the right place, 231.
This one says section is not in that chapter. What is it? Okay, hold on.
I suppose I'm going to have to look at the master
Administration
laws.
of government.
Yeah, declaratory judgments.
Check how to hook up into that.
Yeah, 31A.
Yeah, it doesn't come up.
Okay, so it's a procedure under section 1 may be used to secure determinations of right, duty, status, or other legal relations under deeds, wills, or written contracts or other writings constituting a contract or contracts or under the common law or a charter, statute, municipal ordinance, or bylaw.
So, knowing how thorough Bob is, I don't recall exactly why that reference is in there, but I don't think he would have included it if it weren't germane.
I'm thinking that it's probably
I would make
okay.
a motion, we accept this language as written, except to mark select board. and-
I marked mine right there. Second,
That's it.
discussion?
Actually, it might have been when a meeting I wasn't here. Was it just this was just to make somebody responsible for?
The town manager is responsible to make sure that everything in the charter, and I'm assuming the bylaws, are followed. And the select board or selectmen
That part I understand.
is in charge of making sure that the town manager does their job.
And I'm assuming that we put this in because there wasn't anything that identified anybody as being responsible
Right.
or
So,
accountable.
as a
we're
finance
making that
committee
a-
member, you could do something that's not, or not do something in the charter.
Right, right.
Actually, we found lots of instances where things had to be mailed out that were like, oh, really? And notified, remember, at the beginning.
Okay.
So now there's someone who's responsible for double checking.
Okay.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes, and that is 7-11. Okay. All right. It is getting, in the reds, what I'm going to do is ask you to look at the reds. When we go to the public meeting, we'll just keep the reds. The reds, we're not going to vote on them today, but just look at them. Were we coming up with pros and cons?
How many reds do we have?
We have, do we keep select board as select board or select men? We have the election write-in, and we have, which includes minimum write-ins, and we have town clerk to be appointed or voted in. Those are the three big red items.
Well, okay, but, and also the second town meeting.
Actually, we had that in Brown and we skipped it.
Did we?
Where was it? What number is that?
Well, probably because it didn't
We were
seem
on a
to...
roll.
I know, right? Just read right over.
All in favor of including a second town meeting?
Where is that?
It is 2-4.
2?
Oh, my gosh.
And I think that
I don't know about this new chair.
the annual town meeting shall be held during, okay, there shall be a town meeting held, and I think that one of the things
Oh, there
that
it is.
it might make sense to clarify in there with the there shall be a town meeting held in October, is that
He jumped right over that.
I think it should be a second town meeting so that to distinguish it.
Well, that's what, you know why, what we were going to call it was dependent on what the...
That's the whole, that's.
That's
the
the
whole-
problem.
But it's not a
Yeah.
special town meeting, it's just a,
Second town meeting.
right. Oh,
First
but we'll see
town
it from,
meeting.
okay, so we'll look at what the lawyer said.
Yeah.
Typically, in most towns, they call it the second town meeting.
My thought is, do you want to vote on this, pending that we're going to end up changing maybe what it's called?
Or wait for the lawyer.
Well, no, I guess what I'm saying is if that was a red, there should be a pro and a con to the red, to the town meeting. Because
It's brown.
Yeah, I think,
Was it
you know what?
because it wasn't
Our last
controversial?
public meeting, didn't most people, they were fine with the second town? I think.
Okay, so it's a substantive change, but not controversial.
Yeah, I don't think everyone said, we have a second one every year, it makes it easier for people to put warrants on, correct? Jane?
Yeah, to put
Am I
articles
right?
on,
To get
right?
work
To
done.
do articles and to do things, because special town meetings require extra work, extra...
More
More
signatures.
signatures.
More signatures and a regular town meeting is easier to get things on.
Yeah, but regular town meetings have other requirements. That's,
Well, that's why he was looking into it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess one of the things we did say was that we were going to have the pros and the cons. So I think it may make sense to try to see if we can have, people did talk before about being willing to write a pro or a con to certain
Right.
items.
Yeah, they all
So,
resigned.
they all resigned.
Yes.
So, let's do this. Select board versus select men.
That's nobody sitting here.
Does anyone who wants to be pro? Who wants to write a pro?
That was Bob, isn't he still doing that?
He probably isn't.
Select board or select men? The pros and the cons?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for some reason.
Well, no, that was
For some reason,
basically,
it's very controversial.
It is
for
true.
someone, yeah, basically what we were going to do was, like,
I know,
as the
I
articles
feel like
were
they wanted,
presented.
like...
Well, I'm also explaining for Tanner, who
Oh,
came on even later than
Then we
you
did
guys.
so much later.
But basically, if you had a strong position for or against, it would be helpful for someone to, okay, so if I feel strongly that it should be select board, I'll write the pro. Somebody who feels strongly it should be left would write the con.
Can I take a straw vote? Is that allowed?
sure.
Just,
Jeff.
yeah, but this is under Mass General laws. Just a straw vote, I'm not going to hold anyone to it, right? Can I do that? Yeah.
Yes.
Who is in favor of just keeping it as is?
The board of
Yeah.
selectmen?
Yeah.
Select men.
Yeah.
Who would like to see it change to select board? So it's even. It doesn't really
I know,
matter.
really,
Yeah,
honestly,
I wouldn't lose any sleep over it either way.
No,
Right.
I don't think we need to write pro and cons on that one. It's
I
That's
think you might have
probably
a
whatever
meeting
the people
What's
decide
the
they
vote?
want.
Yeah.
Put it out there, want to vote?
Yeah. All right, so we won't do that one. How about the election write-ins? Do we want a pro and con about election write-ins?
Well, Phyllis was the one that brought it up.
Oh, so
I don't
he-
want to volunteer
yeah.
for her, but
Well, I think she would be the most appropriate to probably advise
And
it.
do
And
we
she
feel
might,
like
no, she
we're-
wasn't on the committee, so
Do we feel like
she was
we're-
definitely not the one who said that we're going to.
Do we feel like we're a little better informed? I feel like I have a better opinion of that whole thing after going through, like, appointed and resident and
Right, right.
voter and all that.
Didn't we come up with a number, anyway, of 10?
Well,
Was that
10 was
number?
bandied around, this and that.
Okay.
It is in
Or 50,
red.
Smaller
1%,
percentage,
right.
Wait a minute, which one are we on?
This is
Minimum.
Minimum
write-ins,
write-in.
minimum for write-in.
see, I almost think we have to re-vote all the reds, make
Yeah.
sure they're still there.
They maybe, yeah.
We have a whole different group than
Yeah.
when we started.
Well, that's why these were the big reds that I
Yeah.
saw, that when I went through. It's-
Yeah, but I mean, I think we have to re-vote.
All
We
of
still
them.
want them in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
because
So-
it's a whole different...
Well,
Now, I don't know if we want to do that tonight, but
No, well, I don't really want to do that.
yeah.
and maybe we
we're already
want the first
running.
public hearing to get some feedback.
What? Because everything will
I
make...
mean, I don't think it's a horrible thing to say,
Yeah.
this is what's on the table right now, we're having one public hearing, then we're going to go back and work it some more, then we're going to have...
Because after the
at
public
least
hearing,
one.
we'll know, select board.
Yeah,
I
yeah, we'll know
think
what the
the
public...
pros and cons were for town meeting.
Right.
Right.
If we're going to put these issues
Right.
forward, then we want to have a pro and a con
Like the...
at town
Yeah.
meeting.
Right.
But we don't necessarily have to have it for the public hearing.
Right.
Okay.
I almost would prefer not to.
We use the public hearings to develop the pros and cons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Based on what we...
I like that, because that's
Unless
what's working.
somebody
Yeah.
feels very strongly about
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
then they
Well, I
speak up,
think
and then you can write all you want.
Yeah.
Well, then it's also, and if somebody at the public hearing has a strong feeling about something, we can ask them to write the pro or the con, so.
That's true too.
True,
Yeah.
because we are going to present these and say, these are
Do they have
areas
to be registered voters?
that we're thinking of
No.
changing, and these are areas that we need a lot more input before we make a decision.
Well, I don't know.
Okay. So,
What?
You can only vote on it at town meeting, if you're a registered voter at town meeting.
Yeah, you do, that's the thing, yeah.
all right, so, the reds will keep as is, the browns, we basically all agreed should stay in, obviously with modifications. The purples, we all say are fine, unless someone comes up with something at the town, at the public thing, and then we go, oh yeah, I suppose you're right. That's good.
Well, if they do that, we have to take it into consideration.
Right. So, I'm trying to move this along here. January 9th is the public hearing. The town hall is already booked, correct, Jim?
Yeah, I did not, I booked the town hall. I didn't write an agenda, I didn't do any notifications. Bob did send you the agenda he used for the last public hearing. Did you see
I
that?
hope so.
I have.
Agenda.
You don't want to have that at like the school and the auditorium or something?
Well, that's a thought too. I wanted to book something.
I know, but
Is it available?
I
I'll
don't
be
know,
honest,
we could
town
look
hall.
into it.
The last one we had at the town hall, we didn't pack the place.
You might pack this one, you never know.
I need to do an
It was a
agenda.
good turnout, but it
wasn't packed.
Okay.
Steve, agenda, and what else do I
Okay,
have?
now this,
I think I went to
We
that.
need a notice in the ledger.
Yeah, I went back. I was late.
Oh, man.
Mr. Chair, this is what Bob used the last time there was a public meeting. You're welcome to it. Let me see what this is. This is Bob's notes on that.
Oh, thank you. All right, so I have to create an agenda and give it to who? Who do I send the agenda to?
Clerk?
Hold on.
Kathy and...
Ellen Griffin, who works for Kathy, does the work, but I would send it to both her and Kathy.
Kathy. I'll go.
Yeah, I always CC.
I do both.
All right.
And then basically make sure that you put it in a PDF format.
Ellen Griffin and Kathy Herrick.
And you can CC Mark too, because he's a clerk.
And at our last meeting, we suggested that we try to get it on the town Facebook page, the pack scroll, and the ledger.
All right.
Just
So,
reminding you what
put
we
a
said.
notice in
Facebook
Ledger,
page.
Town Facebook page.
the town one,
Facebook page.
Facebook. And what was the third thing, please?
The ledger.
The ledger
What was the first
is the public notice, so.
Okay. Who, is that Steve, the Facebook guy? Who's in charge of our Facebook?
Heather.
Heather.
You can just let Heather know, and Heather will do the notice for the paper and for the...
Heather, is she the town manager?
Yes.
Okay. I am not really good with
The other
names.
Heather.
Yes.
The Heather.
So I will have to do that. So
Yeah.
at the moment, we're going to use town hall.
And then get for the
I think
ledger.
we're all set there. Do we have to contact the cable people?
When her, you just copied them on the agenda.
Yep. Yeah, when the agenda goes out, it goes to the...
All right.
Actually, I'm trying to say, Michael or Bob probably used to always include, and if you just send it to everybody who he used to send the agendas to.
Yeah, here's the thing on the mailing list, though. Michael has asked to be taken off it, Bob's
Right.
been asked to be taken off it, and I had to force Tanner onto, the one that Bob was
Right.
using.
I've
Do
created,
you have it?
I've created a document.
Okay, good.
So I'm hoping, I think I put Phyllis's on because she had the
Okay.
Lunenburg on.
I just want to make sure that...
The committee, and I got Tanner.
Okay, good.
And I'm
Yeah.
using your email, right? Because, do you have a Lunenburg?
Yes.
Do you want me to use a Lunenburg?
You should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Could you-
I thought you
Yeah.
sent it to Lou.
Was it on there?
I saw it, but...
Okay.
I think I might have sent that one.
Oh,
Might have
okay.
sent that
Hold
one.
on.
So I got to check, wait a minute, here's my list of things to do, check Tanner. Check Tanner. Email. All right, so I have to get organized for the public comments. All right,
Or Mark.
we're going to look over the schedule. When do we have to have the warrant done? Because that drives our
That's the same
schedule.
one. Did you have the calendar or?
I have
you
a
didn't
calendar
have-
here, and I have all the dates that we're meeting.
Oh, yeah, what are they?
The warrant closes on March 21st.
Where are you? Just the
When is it
name of
open,
the-
do you know?
We were doing the 9th
The
and
other,
the
the
23rd.
rotating with the school committee ones, right?
March 13th would be the,
Okay. The first, the second, and the fourth.
I have a calendar.
When does the warrant close?
Warrant closes on March 21st.
So it's going to be end of February?
We have a quote March 13th meeting, that would be one of the ones. Is that when we should?
March 13th?
I don't know.
What, for the second, for what?
Yeah, well, we have to plan. It would either be February 27th or probably for a second public hearing, we should go February 27th in case there's a snow day, and then we can go the 13th. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
second public. That will give us several weeks to get the warrant ready. I am unavailable on the March 27th date. That would be,
What, do we?
Well, no, the
Wait,
warrant
are we
closes
off
on March
schedule?
21st.
Yeah, we're off schedule.
oh, March 21st?
Yeah,
Oh,
March
so
27th?
we would have to finalize everything on the
February?
13th.
Right.
Whoa, that's,
Working on February
so you
20th.
would want to have your second public
Yes,
hearing on the
correct.
like February 13th, and then we can have, or we can have a meeting
We
in
have a meeting on
March
the 13th, though.
do you want to go to the 13th
Yeah,
for the
we-
second public
So
hearing?
we are going to miss that one.
That would give you a
13th.
month.
You have a
between
month,
your
We have a
Yes,
school
right.
committee meeting on the 13th, we're off cycle
On
because of
February 13th.
holiday. Yeah, they have a lot of holidays.
So that's school committee meeting. Glad I brought it up.
On February 13th.
Yeah, 'cause we're off.
I'm sorry, no, on February 13th you're not available? Okay.
Yeah, because we're off.
You have
cycle.
school vacation week.
Yeah,
Right.
so we have to have it that way.
So we have
We're
a
having
school committee
back-to-back.
the 6th and the 13th.
Yeah.
Going up to February.
When the warrant closes, we have to have the charter completed. Yes? For the warrant, as far as you know?
Does it have to be published in the warrant?
The whole thing is published in the
We-
warrant?
I don't
Might
know.
have to be published in the
We
warrant.
would like it to be published in the warrant.
Yes,
Yeah.
I want.
With the color coding?
But the warrant goes to press like the first week of April,
Right,
right?
right. Actually, the warrant closes on March 21st.
You guys are doing the calendar tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we're doing the
See, I haven't
calendar
seen it
tomorrow.
yet, right?
Yeah. So we're doing the calendar tomorrow, and actually, the warrant closes, I think what he might have meant by the warrant closes is that's the last day to get articles in. But if it doesn't go to the printer until the first week of April, then that gives
Probably
you
not
time
until
to get
April
it.
8th,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
So you want to do the second public hearing on the 27th of February? It doesn't give us a lot of time, but
27th, right. Yep.
then we have the 13th. March 27th, which would be our meeting, I am unavailable that day, so you would have to chair that meeting,
Okay.
just so you know.
And then we've had a public hearing on the 13th, so any last,
No,
our
the
public hearing is
27th.
going to be this one.
the 27th, or the
Yeah.
27th, we'll have a meeting on the 13th,
Yeah.
so really we'll clean stuff up probably for this, on the
Yeah.
13th. So, okay.
Okay, so we have that set.
Okay.
We should do that one, that will be the last one. Should that one, I call the school and book the auditorium? Do you think that's going to
The
be?
second one?
The second one?
For the February 27th?
27th. Is that something we should do?
I don't know.
Well, we'll probably know by the January 9th one, whether it makes sense to
Just
do the
look at
February
that date.
27th.
We have to look at that date because
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of things going on.
class
Plans.
plays,
Could you check the date
Might
if
be
it's
the next
open?
day.
Class plays on the...
it's a Thursday and a Friday, right? When do you have the date for that? I don't
Oh,
know.
but I don't want to be in the auditorium with all that stuff there.
Is it on there yet?
Well, it's connected to the school calendar, so if I don't see it on
It might not be up yet, they just had tryouts.
Oh,
We're just doing
yeah.
All
tryouts.
right. Would you kind of check on the date?
Yeah,
And that way there we'll know whether we can or shouldn't.
yeah.
All right. So my thought is, if you want to write this down, January 9th is a public hearing. The 23rd is a meeting to clean up from the public hearing. So I would ask everyone just to consider all the comments and then come back with what we want to change. The 13th will be missing the school committee people, but we can finish cleaning up then. 27th, do a public hearing in February. And I will, are you getting this down, Mark? For the minutes? All right. March 13th, a meeting. March 27th to finalize the warrant. That would
Which
be
should
ideal.
already be cleaned.
It should be
right?
cleaned, that'll
Yeah.
be you who can finalize that.
We may not
Then-
need that.
We may not. April 10th, do we need to meet April 10th and April 24th to prepare for the town meeting?
I have no idea, I don't know what the presentation
Well,
of the charter would look like. I mean,
We're going to do exactly what we did tonight, and that's going to take forever.
What?
Actually, what'll happen is we will probably present to the town.
So April 24th.
These are-
The school committee meeting on schedule.
Are we all scheduled for another vacation?
April break, yeah. The week of the 15th.
That's all right.
So my expectation is that we're going to have 5 questions to put before the voters. Potentially.
No change.
The minor changes.
The purple changes.
The purple changes, the brown changes, and then individually the red changes.
The red hot, because there are 3 of them.
Right.
Yeah.
I would, do we need to put down no
So that would
change
be
at all?
5 articles.
Oh, cemetery. Yeah, cemetery's going to come out on red, I'm sure.
In that one section?
Actually, probably, if they push for it,
Right.
it'll be red.
Okay.
It'll be red. That'll be a red. It should be right here. Okay. Red, cemetery.
But there's no change. There
Should
have
we
to be
have a no
updates.
change?
The legal,
I'm sorry?
like the purple, it says
The-
something about legal. The purple notes say that clarify, clean us up, the wording and legal.
Yeah, and just bring it up to date with all the legal
Yeah.
things that are going on. I think we have to do that no matter what.
Yeah, the purple one especially.
Yeah, so I don't think we should offer the do nothing. We could.
I don't-
The purple is either yes or no, you
Right.
accept the purple changes.
Right,
The
that's
brown is either yes
Yes
or
or
no,
no.
you accept the brown.
There's nothing.
Oh, right,
He's
because-
saying he's offering the charter
No.
as is.
No,
Well,
because if everyone
gets
votes,
voted down, then-
Right,
All
everything,
four articles are
yeah.
voted down.
if they're all voted down, then we
Then
keep
we're
it
done
as
as
is.
is.
Because we're done at this town meeting. Okay. Committee assignments. Please check the cemetery attachment so we can discuss that at some point, I guess.
Wait, where was it?
I sent it out in an email. I can resend it out. We can always resend out.
Hold on.
Oh, God.
And then we'll get the legal piece. and
We'll
then-
get the legal piece.
Oh,
you're
I'm
gonna
supposed to
send
send
out.
that, right? Okay, sorry.
You'll send that out.
Okay, well, yeah, got it.
So-
Okay.
I will create an agenda.
I thought we were...
Would you send me your
I'll look
distribution
through it.
list so that I can send the legal piece?
Yep, okay, hold on, let me find my page with what to do. I got disorganized.
Gonna have to start numbering your pages.
Well, I try to keep track of what I have to see, my to-do list. Send Jamie distribution list. Check your email. So what I will, oh, and then I have to do public, I gotta set the agenda and do the notice. I'm not going to change the charter that's online. The changes we made, we changed the color of select board. For the most part, that's all we did. We voted to approve, so instead of, it's up there, people are looking at it, leave it be. We're only going for comments at this meeting, and then we can take copious notes on what people think. All right. Wow. Actually, we did get quite a bit done on this. So,
You're doing, no, well, do you have any public comment? You
oh,
do have public comment, Andrew?
now where's that sheet?
I don't know.
I don't see public comment on the agenda.
Oh, it's not on the agenda? Oh, okay.
Nope,
I don't
it
know,
says,
the second
next
one.
meeting is January 9th, we're going to be at Town Hall, 7 o'clock, we're at vote time.
Will you offer public comments, or will you be sat here to make one?
I don't know. I'm new at this.
You have to take a
Comments
vote.
for the chair.
You have to take a
Yeah,
vote
you're chairman of the school
Oh, yeah,
committee.
to
to
change the
change the
agenda.
agenda.
All right, so, do I have a motion to change the
Yeah,
agenda?
we did, yeah.
She's done a lot of
I
research
will
on
we
it.
change the agenda to allow for public comment.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay.
May
All
I
in
make a
favor?
random comment like other people made this evening? We did allow that, random
Okay.
commenting.
Go ahead.
Okay. Katie Adams, Williams Drive, random commenting. As a citizen, I just wanted to talk about the registered voter portion in terms of the Finance Committee having be called out as needing registered voters, and just considering maybe looking through a list of all appointed boards and committees, like the Charter Review Committee. I would put in that same category, since the charter is essentially the constitution of the town, and whether or not there's other boards and committees that you'd hold at the same standard as the Finance Committee in terms of wanting to be sure to have registered voters participating. And then the other thing I was just thinking, in terms of calling out registered voters, you're also calling out the demographic of age. And when you just say resident, you're leaving the spot a little bit more open to even being like a high school student, potentially, and whether or not, you'd want to. Thank you for taking that comment.
I'm looking for where I wrote all that down.
All right. Look really good on their college resume.
Did you vote on public comment, or did you forego that?
I think we kind of voted.
We voted.
We just did.
We voted on it.
And
Okay.
that's where the
Yeah.
random...
Okay,
You have one?
That's why
You
my
have
hand's
another
coming
vote?
up.
Okay, so-
Okay.
All in favor?
No, we all did. So he's looking to you.
Yeah, Dave,
Oh, I'm
this is
sorry.
what you recognize.
Chair recognizes.
I was going to make comments after the meeting unless the public comment period was allowed. I have a little bit of a problem with not adjusting the charter that's up online, because you have made some deletions tonight of proposed changes. Those will still be up there that people will be looking at, and some minor changes to definition and so on and so forth. I think an accurate depiction of what's on the table should be online also.
Still looking for my paper where I have the, all right, thank you. I'll come do it here.
Okay, so unless there's any other public comment, then, because I'll make a motion to it, I won't.
Just before you go there.
Public comment from the committee.
To Mr. Passios's point, we said that any changes that we make can go back through legal.
Yeah.
And I would support the notion that we should post our changes, our proposed changes, online prior to the public hearing.
Yes, after legal. Or now. You want to just, and then say subject to legal.
I'm happy to be the one as long as they both happen.
Yep.
Well, we have to change once we get the legal, but are we meeting to make those changes after legal?
No. No,
So
so
we have the legal.
I think we'd go ahead and put the changes that we voted on. It. Legal's going to go through the whole document anyway. But it would be good to have the legal opinion on the stuff that we did vote.
Now I'm really confused.
The Brown.
You know how we voted through the Brown and we voted
Yep.
to add a definition, and we should put the definition in,
Oh,
so
true.
that people know that when they see days in the document, or that we've changed something to 30 days instead of, whatever. So I think that that should probably be present there. But obviously, if there's a language that legal wants to change, they can change that, but I think people will get the gist of
Or
the
advised
change.
to change.
So change the document according to the legal and repost it.
I think,
No,
let's
post it
change it
now.
now. Change it now.
Subject to legal.
And we can add a note that,
Review.
that it hasn't been, some changes haven't been reviewed.
Yes.
Or not, we're just,
Well, and at
just
this
leave
point,
it
the
up.
legal changes should just be adjusting
Yeah, just little-
our intent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It shouldn't
Our intent,
be,
yeah.
we can't do
It could
this
be
or we can't.
language.
Yeah.
Yeah, just put it up with with what we voted, what we actually
Unless
voted.
something we voted on is illegal.
But it's
Well,
okay.
then we'll say at the public hearing that
I
the
don't
lawyer
think
says
anything
this is
is illegal.
illegal. Lawyer
Yeah.
says we can't use this, so
Yeah.
you can
That would be
comment on
the-
it, but it's not going to happen.
That would be the only thing.
Okay.
Sorry. Now,
Sorry.
can I make a motion to adjourn?
Second. Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Sorry about that.